Case to case.
We the people grow cotton.
Webcam microphone up close. Webcam microphone up close.
At the age of 19 in 1962, she was a...
But I have the files. I read this stuff at the National Archives, and I read these other things. I said to myself, how can that be possible? Candles and fondle slab of choice, and computers, internet, professional wrestlers, and not just Ventura style. It doesn't matter where the information comes from as long as it's real. It's hard to get real information. Because seriously, they don't want you to have threes to together whenever I try to prove out. It's not. If you expect your government to tell you the truth, you're going to be sadly disappointed on another one of these things.
Dear Lord, what a dirty old man, huh?
Really? Can't be serious. Is this really how you want things to be? Come on. More hooker, eruptions. Eruptions, whatever.
Like Dave Powers kind of...
Really?
Allegedly broadcast live from Pima Region 2, within the borders of the formerly united and currently occupied states of America. We bring you the Ochelli Effect.
I damn sure know I'm an original. We have all these situations. I'd love to know why it takes 50 years, for a 19-year-old girl to eventually get up the gumption to put these things out.
Oh, just barely under the wire, and we are live on UCY.TV radio. This is the Ochelli Effect, and I'm Chuck Ochelli, who almost didn't make it to air on time. Gotta love it. Anyhow, hope everybody's doing well. I want to thank you for tuning in, and, much love to the individuals who went out of their way today to promote me, and also a shout-out to Vince, who mentioned me several times on Cancer Kickers today. Thank you very much, Vince. I'm not currently in the chat room, but we're working on it. Little tech issue kind of thing arose right before I went to air, but, hey... It is what it is. Anyhow, tonight, as soon as I can get things flowing correctly, and thank you very much for going to ucy.tv/TOE for the Ochelli Effect. I do appreciate it. You can find me on Facebook if you want to yell at me, conversate, whatever it is you feel like doing. All of that kind of good stuff. And, man, oh man. So tonight, actually, I'm going to revisit one of my regular guests, which is Suzanne Posel of OccupyCorporatism.com, as well as the USIndependent.com, and you guys are familiar with her, whether you're a listener of mine or not. You're probably very familiar with her from, the Jack Blood Show. She's also done stuff with Cancel the Cabal, which Stephen Roberts was on my show just the other day, and has done other shows with me and all that kind of good stuff. And yes, I am actually stalling for time and trying to sort things out. So apologies all around on that one. Let me close out this nonsense, which helped me to reestablish my connection with the internet and all that kind of good stuff. And Suzanne Posel, of course, is a prolific journalist who has gotten out a great many interesting articles over the years and is constantly in motion, as it were, creating and putting out a great deal of information. And I'm always very happy to have her on the show. And let's just see if I can add her in here correctly and easily before too long, because, Skype recently updated itself and did all that kind of good stuff as well. And, also, I did forget to thank everybody who does tune in on the YouTube channel, the playlist over there, and all of those other wonderful little apps and things like TuneIn and all that stuff where you guys can catch me as well. And all of the other wonderful hosts on UCY.TV radio. Anyway, as I was saying, Suzanne, I was a little disorganized there, and believe it or not, had a few glitches right before and tried to eat dinner all the way up until broadcast, but hey, the best play... there I go, tripping over my tongue. The best laid plans of mice, men, and the blind guy who calls himself Chuck Ochelli. Boy, I'll tell you. How are you tonight, Suzanne?
You know, one of the things, and I love to read. I loved to read as a kid. I used to hang out at the library, okay? But I really did not like Steinbeck. Grapes of Wrath of Mice and Men, I think he's the worst writer I've ever been made to read. And I think that children should not be subjected to that.
So you didn't appreciate the Pearl even, eh?
No.
Oh.
No, I thought with the Pearl it was going to be a little bit different. The man was just, whatever his personality was, it conveyed itself too much into the writing, and it was very stale and bland. So I'm assuming he was kind of stale and bland.
Yeah, and although I get a lot of pushback on this one, I got to tell you, I preferred people like Kurt Vonnegut and stuff like that. And a lot of people say, "Oh, you're just saying that to to be cool and to appear intellectual." But no, I actually enjoyed those layers of confusion that almost made your head spin a little bit. But then when you take a step back from the writing, you could absorb something different. But Steinbeck's language and style became dated, in my opinion, to start with. You know what I mean? Like, it was just, It wasn't one of those things that stood the test of time, as they say. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Slaughterhouse-Five, Breakfast of Champions, that stuff is amazing. It's like modern-day Mark Twain, in my opinion.
Well, right. I mean, what was it? The Naked Lunch stuff?
Yes.
Definitely madness, and don't judge it by that movie either. Remember that movie that they made?
No, I don't. I missed it.
Oh, you got to see it with the bugs and the typewriter that's a bug and the whole bit. And oh man, it's too much. My personal favorite from Vonnegut is Timequake, believe it or not, which was a later book, and definitely, in my opinion, one of those things that was worth reading and really explored the possibilities regarding the temporal distortions. As it were, of course, until you get to the end and you realize what he's actually saying. And I won't spoil it for anybody. Go check it out. You know what I mean?
Sure. That opened me up to Kafka. And, and it's hard to write a story about a man who wakes up as a cockroach and make it interesting and believable. But Kafka was able to do that, and that opened the door to Milan Kundera. If you've ever read you've probably seen The Unbearable Lightness of Being with Daniel Day-Lewis and Juliette Binoche way back in the day. But read the book; it's fantastic. It's such a great. It's stereotypical in the way that the Juliette Binoche character is like the every woman who becomes the wife, and then the Sabine character is the every woman who becomes the other woman. And you can kind of fit yourself into one or either characters, and it's a little depressing in that way, but it's such a great statement of the male-female relationship, and as it grows and progresses over time, the changes that it goes through, and the things that we don't tell our partner, and the things that we do share with our partner, and how it affects the entire relationship as it goes on over the years.
Yeah, and the personalized versions of Metamorphosis are definitely, again, worth the price of admission when it comes to, committing yourself to reading one of these works. But, hey, and I bet you there's probably about 10 people that are listening to us that know what we're actually talking about, but it's okay. That's okay.
I was a real big nerd and a real big geek in high school, so...
and back when it didn't necessarily require a computer to be a nerd or a geek, right?
Oh, yeah, no, I use the Dewey Decimal System, folks.
Yeah. Right, exactly. Remember that? A card catalog. Oh, okay. And all that wonderful stuff, thanks very much, J. Edgar Hoover. But, anyway, let's talk about some other writing, because obviously, as I said during the introduction and me fumbling around trying to get things straight, because here's the hysterical part, even though you and I had a brief pre-air conversation, I was actually juggling a bunch of stuff and trying to rush in from dinner into my quiet room, and so it was it was kind of a weird experience, and things didn't want to cooperate right away, and I barely got myself on air just as the introduction was finishing itself. So
That's impressive.
Live radio. Live radio. But so, like I said in my introduction, I mean, you're the editor-in-chief over at the U.S. Independent. You are, the person behind OccupyCorporatism.com. Definitely somebody that we see around regarding memes, stories, all kinds of interesting stuff. And I definitely want to talk to you about some of those, but also your viewpoints on a couple of the things that are, currently going on in the so-called information stream.
Sure.
The alleged news, as it were, right?
Careful.
Yeah, yep. I know. And I'm just going to turn right over to OccupyCorporatism.com, and we're just going to dash over a couple of headlines, and then I know we'll probably wind up in some weird space, because we always do when you and I get together on this show.
That's the fun part, I get to be more of myself with you, whereas with other interviews, I'm a different way. So I enjoy the conversation. I hope everybody listening does.
Yeah, and you always get a chance to say something on here that didn't necessarily make it to air with some other people.
I do sometimes. I give you exclusives.
So, all right, so let's start with this one, because this was the first, because I just went right over to OccupyCorporatism.com, which is all one word, by the way, no dots or anything in between until you get to the .com part, obviously. But if you go right on over there and you go to the breaking news area, okay, one of the first things that grabbed my attention today as I looked at your site was, and this is not necessarily that it was published today, because obviously this was published on the 20th of December, according to what's there. Banks get the green light to crash the system, ellipsis points again. Rather interesting article. What would you say besides the headline itself, which, is rather obvious, because realistically everything is kind of like the banking system against us at this point, the corporate interests against us, and us being, the poor pathetic creatures out here that have to live in the rest of the world that is not, FDIC insured and IMF backed. Oh, did I say that? Maybe I did. But the thing is, taking a look at this, I mean, that's quite a grabbing sort of enthralling headline. But I mean, what are we talking about in this story here, Suzanne?
Well, the Volcker rule is supposed to protect us from the banks doing that whole securitized derivatives, Las Vegas style betting again.
You mean the life's blood of the banking system for minimally the past decade, and one of the things that they hyperextended repeatedly and is now floating over the planet like a giant pile of bricks on an old cartoon drawing hanging over a cat or a mouse or whatever animal you would like, sort of just lingering up there waiting to come falling down on all of us. You mean that?
Yes. When you play the stock market and you lose and you're a bank, then everybody loses. And we found that out several times. We've learned that. But somehow we still go back and we trust the banks. I don't get it, but maybe that's for another show. I don't know. So the Federal Reserve this week opened up the door for securitized derivatives, risky trading, by extending the deadline for banks to sell off their stakes in hedge funds and private equity till 2017. So you can guarantee that they've got another 2 years to do all sorts of shenanigans that they want to do, that they always do, that costs us a lot of money bailing them out. I would be more concerned about a bail-in at this point than a bail-out, because they tried it and they went big. If you're going to do something that audacious, go big.
Well,
and they went about as big as we can handle.
Yeah, I mean, go big or go home, and they've already gone way bigger than any of us can go home to anymore. We're talking about numbers that are absolutely astounding regarding this, and of course the rule that they got rid of, though. What does that actually entail? I mean, for the listener's sake here, what do we want to explain about this rule that would have been different had they not pushed it out?
The Volcker rule, sorry.
Now, it's okay. It's contagious. When you're on the air with me, suddenly your tongue and your teeth become confused with one another, and it's just one of those things. It's kind of like the Ochelli Ebola at this point. So it's all right. Just take your time, take a breath, and the Volcker rule, as it were, right?
Yes. So
okay.
This was designed in part by the banks, in tandem with the Dodd-Frank law. In order to put a rein and ban all of the securitized trading mishaps that have occurred. The collateralized debt obligations, okay? So that's what caused us all the problems in 2008. And so this rule is supposed to ban all of that activity, so they cannot do it anymore. The Federal Reserve said, yeah, sure, but we'll talk about that in 2017.
So, really what we're looking at here is the, once again, sort of recirculated concept of kicking the can further down the road regarding the financial responsibilities. And meanwhile, here's what gets confusing for, an average guy who's not a great economist, because believe me, I can't even run my own economy properly, so I don't necessarily say that I know what would be best for the rest of us regarding all this stuff, except, maybe if all of these economic systems actually disappeared all at once. But outside of that, what are we saying here? Well, it seems confusing because, after all, they turned around, subdivided this stuff, repackaged it, and turned it into, it's almost as if they took all types of meat from 80 different animals and made several types of meatloaves and then re-cannibalized it to create crackers at some point, and nobody got to eat any of them. They're just, again, floating over our heads in the hypothetical space that is the economic realm. You know what I mean? It just never seems to end regarding the shuffling and changing of things. The crap that's going to wind up falling back down on the entire planet regarding this, somewhat underspoken of derivative bubble is so monstrous. I really don't have an adjective to describe it, right? But this is allowing them to continue to kick that can a little further down the road, just so it's not part of the equation until 2017, which curiously it will be post-election,
Absolutely. Yes, you got to think about this, folks. If it's going to impede on somebody's ability to get into office, then things are set in motion years beforehand, and we think, oh, nothing of it. And then all of a sudden, it's fortuitous that this person should become president, and magically they do. Right. Now, the American Banking Association revised the Volcker Rule. And this could play into why they're kicking the can down the road. They want to make sure that their revision sticks. They were outlining the notion of stay by as directed by the Federal Reserve System, the Board of Governors for the Federal Reserve. And the emergency notion was filed by the American Banking Association under concern that the Volcker Rule would cause substantial, immediate, and irreparable harm to the small community banks and customers they serve. Okay. Well, you guys got to remember something. Starting 2 years ago, and I reported on this, and some people did as well, and I was grateful to see that. The mega banks have been purchasing up all of these small banks for the last 2 years. It's like when you go to shop at Sears and you think you're shopping at Sears. Well, you're really shopping at Kmart. It's like when you buy all these products that Nestle owns and you can't remember the list is insurmountable, and so you think you're buying something that isn't owned by Nestle, but that's almost impossible. So this is the same exact thing. The small banks are being sucked up, their name and everything stays the same, because that way you think that you have a choice. It's been very successful in the corporate world, and so why wouldn't banks do this? So the idea that the ABA is saying, oh, well, all these small community banks and the customers they serve are going to be harmed by the Volcker rule as it stands, and we need to put in this revision that we've written, by the way, it is an absolutely ridiculous statement, and it preys upon the ignorance of the public.
Well, right. I mean, it's just like telling us that Obamacare was written about people that actually care about health or care in the beginning, to begin with, right?
You mean the insurance companies?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, coincidentally, those same people, right? They happen to write this, and then they, have the great gnashing of teeth and wringing of hands regarding what it's going to do. But meanwhile, they were actually the authors. In the ostensive Bank of America, as it stands, or Bank of Saudi Arabia, as I like to call it, that bank is supposed to be, this great beacon, for those of us here who would be concerned with American interests, American assets, et cetera, and nothing is further from the truth. It's just one of those, cogs in the mechanism of the greater international banking system, and really has nothing to do with being of anything other than of the bank. So it's really the bank of the bank, and America is not even one of its higher priority concerns on the mid-level sort of perspective. This is the reality regarding this stuff, though, is that they relabel things and tell you that it's something else. Like minoxidil was turned into a hair growth drug, and meanwhile it was really a blood pressure drug that got repurposed and repackaged. It seems like repurposing and repackaging things is really the black art of today, as it were, regarding keeping the public distracted and deferred from the realities around them.
Absolutely. Prozac has been repackaged as, hey, you have those extra premenstrual kind of idiocracies or mood swings. Go ahead and take Prozac. I mean, whatever they're calling it. It's got it's in a pink box. I can't remember the name that they repackaged it, but it's Prozac.
Well, in order to sell it to ladies, you got to put it in a pink box.
You have to put it in we love pink, so put it in a pink box, of course. Along that lines, I wrote this article earlier this year about value-based medicine. In fact, treatments for cancer specifically under value-based under Obamacare. And this is the American Society of Clinical Oncology asking Congress to put this provision in there. And so, just so you know, the value-based system uses the ideology that customers pay out of pocket for medical expenses based on the value of the medical service that they have received. No. So wait a minute. The chemotherapy is very expensive because it has a high value, and therefore you have to pay based on the value. Healthcare is not walking into Tiffany's and purchasing a silver keychain that you could purchase at Walmart almost and pay an exorbitant amount of money because it's Tiffany's. We cannot have a healthcare system that does this. That people are going to just die. They won't be able to afford the healthcare because it's too valuable.
Well, right. I mean, and this, of course, is them writing their own price guidelines and colluding with one another to cause the prices to be as such. I mean, plastic catheters costing $300 when they cost 10 cents to make and things like this. This is the reality of the healthcare system as it stands. Is that we say it's the price because we've all said it's the price, and we all benefit from jacking up the price. And of course, who loses at the end of the day? Well, those that are not quite valuable enough to be invested with these inflated assets and treatments and such, right?
Oh, absolutely. I was shocked to see that in the news. It was this article was back in March of this year. The idea of value-based healthcare just stopped me. I'm almost flabbergasted now just rereading the article as I'm talking about it with you guys. This is an insurance model that allows for the benefit of investors and not patients' wellness or recovery, in fact, with regard to medical care, which is a very sneaky way of insurance corporations getting away with not paying for treatments. because you might not be valuable enough to have that treatment, or that treatment might be so valuable that it's out of your range.
Well, and it goes right back to that old argument from the ostensibly and supposedly and still allegedly right wing of the purple fascist bird, as it were, that seems to fly here. That said, look, we'll be able to unplug grandma so that we can hire a new teacher. Cost benefit analysis when it comes to human beings. This is what it comes down to, right?
Absolutely. I deal with this all the time. My husband and I started a business, and we have crystal pure CBD. This is the purest form of CBD that you can get on the market. And the reason why we started this company was for reasons like what we're talking about. We email and speak to our customers, and we have hooked up with Novus Medical Group, which has doctors, RNs, and medical staff. If you have questions and you want to speak to a medical professional, you can do so, and you can purchase our product wholesale through Novus Medical Group. Because of situations like Obamacare and the entire medical system as a whole. This is the medicinal part of the marijuana and hemp plant, and I know we've discussed this on the show before, but taking CBD, if you go to PubMed, you'll see thousands of studies. There have been recent studies with breast cancer. They showed that cannabidiol had positive effects in dealing with all types of breast cancer. Not one type of breast cancer was out of the loop. Every single type of breast cancer had positive effects with just using cannabidiol, nothing else. The Royal Society over in London recently published a study last year stating that cannabidiol has positive effects on neurological disorders because it breaks the blood-brain barrier on everything from mild depression to bipolar and schizophrenic. So this is an amazing tool that we can use to stay out of Obamacare, to stay out of that loop of managed healthcare, because all of these hospitals and they're all run by corporations. And so a corporation's job is to keep you a repeat customer and make sure that they get as much money as possible. And that doesn't work in healthcare, because health isn't always about making money. It's about healing people. And if you make money because of that, that's great. And if you don't, then they're healed. That's the point of medical care. So we can't trust the physicians because they're getting kickbacks and paid by the pharmaceutical industry. We can't trust the AMA because they're run by the pharmaceutical industry. Obama is sinking billions of dollars into the brain mapping project for the psychiatric community, and sinking money into the biotech industry to find more drugs to suit more problems that we're incurring, because the corporations have all these chemicals in our food and our water, and it's raining down from the sky, and we need actual care because we're coming down with things that we were never coming down with 20, 40, 50 years ago. And by the droves. The Generation X is the first generation to not outlive their parents. That's very scary to me.
Well, and it's no wonder, considering all the virtually inescapable realm, the panopticon, as it were, of toxins and attacks on the natural system. And I'll tell you something else. It is a good point that that use of these kind of products, if the product is a valid and thoroughly well tested and well intentioned thing, obviously anything can be perverted, but when you're talking about utilizing, a truly pure version of this product, what happens is all kinds of benefits can be had. As a matter of fact, I think we're only really scratching the surface regarding, in modern times, the usefulness of this kind of thing, because I hear from people all the time that that don't have a problem necessarily, aren't necessarily going for the sick care because they have an ailment, but just people that as they were starting to age, noticed that they were having problems when they started utilizing these types of products. They noticed sort of a rejuvenative effect regarding their entire systems, so it wasn't just about treating people when they were sick. It's actually, something that can be done and I hate to use this term because it's such an allopathic term, but preventative medicine, which is, virtually unheard of at this point, in the greater complex out there, in the greater, medical industrial complex, as it were. But in terms of the Obamacare system and everything else, preventative medicine, although they kind of laud these things as, we'll give credits if you do this and we'll give credits if you do that, but the judgments that they're making regarding what is actually beneficial is antiquated at best.
Absolutely. When I did the research on the articles about the snake oil salesman in the cannabidiol industry, it got to a head for me when I looked into Medical Marijuana Incorporated, who owns HempMeds PX and Canaway, and all of the other big names, and all the companies that white label their product and sell it under another name. Medical Marijuana Incorporated, from independent laboratory tests, showed significant levels of toxic solvents in their product. And when I further looked into it, here's the problem. That black stuff, that hemp paste, that is 15% CBD and 85% filler. That includes heavy metals, toxic solvents, and God knows what. And I'm in the process of getting a hold of some of that and sending it to an independent laboratory. I have a laboratory in Oregon who will do the test. So I need to get the paste and send it off to them to find out what is in that. Because when you're taking these products from Medical Marijuana Incorporated, Canaway, HempMeds PX, and all these other labels out there, they're all using the hemp paste as the base constituent, even if it's a liquid. So what's happening is you're getting 15% CBD, where they're claiming exorbitant amounts of CBD, 200 milligrams, but really it's 200 milligrams of the hemp paste, which is 85% filler and heavy metal solvents and toxic solvents, and then only 15% CBD. So you're getting a percentage of the 15% in the 200 milligram. They count it all, the hemp paste, together with the CBD as a whole when they say 200 milligrams. That's absolutely unacceptable. So my husband and I got a hold of an actual crystal pure CBD. It looks like sugar in the vial, and I have a vial of it that is untreated and or uncreated. So it looks like sugar. And the laboratory test for the constituent that we use is 99.999% pure. We have the laboratory tests up on crystalpurecbd.com. If you go to the website, you can check out, we have the most current laboratory tests on our product, which is 99.8% pure. And all it is the CBD and hemp oil. That's it. And it's 300 drops. It is the most pure CBD. Now, if you want to add THC to that, by all means you can. And if you would like to speak to a doctor, email me at posel@msn.com, and we will get you in touch with Novus Medical Group, or you can contact them directly, and you can purchase our product wholesale through Novus Medical Group. And you can speak to a doctor and someone who works with medical marijuana and including CBD. And that's the reason why we created this product, because no matter what you're purchasing out there, you're purchasing the hemp paste, unless you're purchasing crystal pure CBD. We don't have the hemp paste, so there's no black stuff, there's no toxic solvents, there's no GMO. Our hemp seed is organic. Everything is good for you. It's just the CBD, which you need, and some hemp oil, and it's organic, and that's it.
Well, yeah, and I recall from an earlier article, and I can't remember the title of it at this moment because, as I said, I had those organizational problems. I thought I had a few moments to get myself together before air, but I didn't. But one of the things that was interesting was when you were discussing this paste and what was being developed from it, somebody who was involved in that was making statements regarding the contaminants in the paste, and it was really scary kind of stuff that was going on out there, right?
Yes, this is Tamar Wise, who used to work for Dixie Botanicals, and she's actually the scientist that created the Dixie Botanicals product that they use.
That's it.
Now,
That's who I was. Yeah, that's who I was thinking of. And this was the lady that made the statement that was really shocking in at least one of your earlier articles. I can't remember. Like I said, it might have been more than one, but I remember this point, and it's sticking with me. That please go ahead and explain that to the audience, because in case they missed it the first time around when we were discussing it, it was pretty extreme.
She made the statement, and I contacted her, and she is under contractual agreement, so she cannot publicly speak. But she made this statement on her Facebook page and has since taken it down. But I have a copy of it in my article, and I've repeated it in other articles as well, like you were mentioning. She said that she had seen the hemp paste and that it was unfit for human consumption. It had live microbial life breeding into it, and it was made in China, and that is true. A lot of this hemp paste is coming from China. Now, they have completely different restrictions and allowances than we do. And so the base constituent, which is the hemp paste, is coming from places like China, and it is, according to Tamar Y, is unfit for human consumption. So then HempMeds PX or Canaway gets that stuff from Phytosphere, who supplies it to Medical Marijuana Incorporated. So Phytosphere buys it from China. They sell it to Medical Marijuana Incorporated. Medical Marijuana Incorporated then sends it down to their subsidiaries. Canaway is its own corporation, and they also get their base constituent, the paste, from Phytosphere. And this is the toxic solvent that Tamar Wise was talking about. So there was a group called Project CBD who did an article a couple of weeks ago, and I reported on it as well because I could not believe what they were coming up with. They had an independent laboratory test medical marijuana's ingredients, and they found the toxic solvents. And just to give you a little background on Canaway, which I found this fascinating, the gentleman who runs Canaway Life Sciences is the name of the corporation. The gentleman who runs Canaway was the CFO, the Chief Officer of Operations for Stratton Oakman. And if you've seen the movie The Wolf of Wall Street, you would remember him. He is the Jonas Hill character, the guy who helps Jordan Belfort, for lack of a better term, and I apologize for using colorful language, screw a bunch of people out of their life savings on penny stocks. Yeah. So this gentleman jumped from going to prison with the Wolf of Wall Street and then created Cana Life Sciences and got an exclusive agreement with the National Institutes of Health to use his product as a method of treating diseases caused by oxidative stress by administering therapeutic effective amounts of non-psychoactive cannabidiol. I'm sorry.
See, I told you it's contagious. And
that is a really hard word to say, though.
But no, I know it, and but I'm telling you, it's only because you're on with me that this is happening to you. So I apologize. Thank you. I have to apologize to you, but it's an amazing thing. And to talk about the context of the people that you sort of glossed over that. So let me just say this. We're talking about, the same types of individuals that, people flip around terms like junk bonds nowadays. And they don't realize exactly what that was, and to break it down in a real simple sort of way, again, because I'm not an economist and I have to sort of, really sort of reduce things down to their lowest common denominator to really understand them regarding this. But you're talking about the types of people that would sell, 5, 6, 1,000% of a company. You know what I mean? These types of practices. And then when it imploded, and they would walk away with their money still. I mean, this was the kind of individuals we're talking about here. I'm not making specific charges here. What I'm doing is I'm trying to point out that there is, it's no wonder that they would have no problem utilizing things that are not fit for human consumption later on in order to jump on board with a trend a little bit and to directly deceive people regarding what seems to be, sort of revolutionary for its time, to be out there regarding, health and people's personal wellness, and to exploit the sort of ignorance of individuals by even seizing upon those who wish to think outside of the box, right?
Exactly, because we have receptors in our brain and our body to receive cannabidiol. We're born with it. So we are supposed to take this into our body, and it helps your immune system behave better. It helps it function better. It tells the cells that are behaving abnormally, and that includes cancer cells, to shut off, and you expel it naturally. No chemotherapy.
Right, and it works. It does work for ailments. You know what I mean? Like, this is the thing with hemp and and quite directly, even with marijuana, in my opinion, and I've taken some crap and lost some people that I really would have wished would have come on my show, and people that would have come back on my show even. I'm not going to name names directly here, but there are individuals who, are part of the legitimate academic world who don't want to now appear with me because of the fact that I made such a strong point about thinking that, that utilizing a plant is a good idea. For just human beings in general. It has preventative, it has sort of the maintaining equilibrium from a systemic point of view regarding the human body. It's all sorts of wonderful things, and it is useful in so many different ways to so much of the population that I see no need for this continuous debate regarding whether to legalize it or not. We have plenty of legalized things out there that are a whole lot more damaging. The pharmaceutical industry preys upon people who have ailments with things that are completely counterproductive to their health, as a constant. And it's one of those truly ridiculous things. But as with any corporation or any of these people that are really putting their skin in the game to do nothing but gain from the corporate side, it is always necessary to pretty much check your morality, your idea of reality, and your concept of giving a damn about what you do to the public at large. You got to check that at the door if you're going to get involved in these industries. And but the thing is, there are people that are doing it differently, like you guys are doing, and I do want to get back to that. I do want to get back to it, but I want to jump around a little bit with you because I love doing this. And we will definitely revisit this whole thing, and I want to get into the specifics of where people can find it and everything else. But before we do that, I want to make sure, before I get lost on this, that we jump around a little bit more, okay?
Yeah, let's jump.
All right, let's jump around. See, here's the fun part with me too, is we'll do this, and then it'll descend into a personal conversation where we forget that anybody else is listening to us. So, all right. Excuse me, throat's a little dry today. All right. So, again, going from OccupyCorporatism.com, all one word, again, from the breaking news. Yeah, the breaking news tab and all that. On December 19th, we have Obama's police task force, and this is going to lead up to a few other things, and believe me, we're going to have a fascinating middle part of this conversation, because we might actually have a disagreement here, Suzanne, a serious one, but we'll see. But not on this article, though. Obama's police task force focused on rebuilding public trust. Now, that almost seems like a sarcastic headline.
No, it's a factual headline.
But it almost seems sarcastic considering the way that I view, the situation with Obama and the fact that we're looking at a shell game here, and regarding any of this stuff, I mean, at this point, because he is the lame duck president and is going to be, obviously involved in the gridlock that he's going to be involved in for the next couple of years minimally, right? What is he going to seek to accomplish at this point except sort of polish his legacy, as it were, for the, for the brainwashed history books out there, which is a whole other subject regarding, the recent events with Cuba and everything else. But this almost seems like a forced, necessary thing that somebody had to add to his legacy, regarding the racial divide, the police state, exactly how this is all developed in light of what went on in Ferguson, New York City, Cleveland, and everywhere else it seems we turn. If you look hard enough, you can find these incidents, right? And meanwhile, another task force loaded with, God knows who to accomplish actually God knows what, right?
Well, this is the greatest thing, and I always say this to people. You don't have to go and read tabloid journalism. The truth is strange enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
Seriously.
Absolutely.
That is a factual headline, and I know it's kind of tongue-in-cheek, but this task force, the task force on the 21st century policing, is going to examine how to strengthen public trust and foster strong relationships between local law enforcement and the communities that they protect, while also promoting effective crimes reduction. That's a direct quote.
See, but in the real world at this point, all of that stuff that you just said sounds like, double think on top of double think on top of double think. Let's break it down a little bit, okay? I know that this is, 101 stuff for you, and this is ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, but let's think about this for just a second. The perception now that the police forces around the country are protecting and serving, okay, that's a mockery in and of itself. The fact that this task force is going to be able to address, touch, or even remotely create a ripple effect where, even the still waters that might be in the local communities will be remotely affected by what they do in any sort of positive way is again laughable. It's almost like saying, listen, I want to get rid of mad cow disease, so I have brought Ronald McDonald in to be my consultant, and he's going to be assisted by the weird-looking Burger King guy from the commercials, because these men will be able to straighten out the beef industry. I mean, that's almost what it looks like to me,
What this is, and
I know I went a little strange on you there, but think about what I'm saying. It's like the cartoon characters are going to get elected to office, and therefore they're going to make the decisions. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Except this is an appointed, situation where these task forces are going to accomplish what? I mean, I know what the surface story is, but in reality, what does it all come down to in the end?
What it comes down to, and I'm sorry, folks, but Obama didn't create this. In fact, George Bush Sr. created this. Okay, mm-hmm. And so it's come to a head. It's taken 3 presidencies to come to a head. Now that's quite a long time, but eventually, when you suppress people, eventually it comes through. And the police departments have been getting away with literally murder for a long, long, long time. And it does have to do with race, but it also has to do with the overbearing police state that we have, and cops think that they, in the suspect phase, can do whatever they want to you, including kill you. Even before you get to the arrest and detainment and booking, just a suspect. They're not even sure if they got the right guy, but they'll shoot you anyway. And so Obama is cleaning up house. Now, it's in the last half of his presidency. So think about this, folks. The next guy walking in does not want to deal with this, okay? So it's up to Obama to take out the mop and clean up a little bit, even if there's still a stain or if you can still see that mark in your carpet. The next guy will come in and finish off the job.
See, and that's the thing. We're actually talking about not the last half, but the last quarter, realistically, right? It's the last quarter of his presidency, and I say again, this is part of the public perception regarding his legacy, as it were. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just seems to me like that's what the stage show is about here. To realistically get anything done regarding that culture and I hate to borrow this, but regarding the bully culture where it is sanctioned by the local governments to become these militarized police forces, this is not going to get addressed. The reality of the racial divide is not going to really get addressed. This is just going to be pontification and those opining about their prejudicial programming from before, and a hail of paper and some money spent to probably do studies to accomplish what?
To accomplish nothing. I wrote an article earlier in the week and actually got to speak to the corporation involved in all of this stuff. Taser is the corporation, and they have made $2.8 million in providing the Los Angeles Police Department with 7,000 body cameras. And so I actually, on Twitter is an awesome tool. You can actually speak to these people. They had an issue with the original photo that I used, so I went and changed it, but I took this as an opportunity to ask them if they had any comment on the profitability of their product that does not protect against citizens as victims of police brutality. And they responded, "We are the #1 company who has the people, the technology, and the gumption to go out and tackle this problem, and we can make a difference." And I said, well, if Eric Gardner was killed on video, then how does your product tackle the system? Or is it about lucrative contracts? Because like I said, $2.8 million with the promise of more contracts as long as the Los Angeles Police Department beta test is successful. They can look at several billions of dollars in contracts. Their response to that was, so you're telling me that we aren't tackling the problem, and they sent me a news article from the New York Times, and I realized that they're just trying to divert the issue. So I asked again, what is your comment to tackling the problem that Eric Gardner was killed by police on camera? Is this about making money? And their response was, we're trying to change the world to provide tools and transparency and accountability. This is America, in all caps, and we are a solution. And I said, could you explain how your product creates transparency and how it would have saved Eric Gardner's life since he was killed on camera? And their response was he using one of our cameras? Because we have found that there's better behavior on both sides of the badge when officers use our products. And I said to them, are you saying that the video of Eric Gardner's death would have, if it were taken on your cameras, that the officers would have behaved better? Are you saying that Eric Gardner would be alive if the NYPD had used your product? And they refused to answer me at that point. They ended the conversation on Twitter. Well, but you can read all of this in the article, because I went back and updated my article on Taser and the Los Angeles Police Department and linked in that Twitter conversation, so you can read what this corporation thinks about your safety. They just made, like I said, almost $3 million on one beta test contract, with promises of other precincts and other departments across the country using their product if the Los Angeles Police Department beta test goes very well. But I need to remind people that it is the Los Angeles Police Department that was caught earlier this year disabling voice recording equipment and antennas on 50 squad cars that go into low-income areas. Well, so I have no confidence that the LAPD will turn on their camera as soon as they go to pull someone over or have some sort of incident. I have no confidence that if it happens to be an incident in a low-income area, that they will record it, or that the record will be accessible to the public, because police departments are typically deny requests from the public for video footage and have to be subpoenaed by a court in order to get it.
Well, right, and look, your point is extremely well taken regarding the LAPD, because after all, if well, okay, let's start with the LAPD. First of all, historically, you cannot find probably a more corrupt metropolitan police force on the planet. I mean, it is endless, okay? Of course, I'm, one of these assassination guys, so I spend a bit of time examining the behavior of this, illustrious organization regarding the RFK assassination, right? They were wonderfully trustworthy there, weren't they? These are the same people that, that bring you Rodney King, that bring you plenty of wrongful deaths that really weren't, reported on nationally. And shame on you, Suzanne. Don't you know that if they were recording Eric Gardner's death in high def, he might have not actually passed away? I mean, don't you know that if the resolution was higher, he might have actually lived?
Well, I caught an article a couple of days ago, a local article talking about the Rialto Police Department in California. Okay. And they specifically said within 3 lines of the article that the police officers turn on the camera when they get out of their car to approach a suspect. The camera is not on until they turn it on. There you go right there, folks. It's very easy for them to just not turn it on, do whatever they want to you, and you're subject to whatever the dash cam caught. But let's think about that, folks. If everybody's spending all this money, $2.8 million on the LAPD alone to outfit them with the taser body camera, then they don't have any money to keep that equipment in the dash cam, which happens to be the only third-party non-involved witness that we have right now. And even though it's difficult to get that footage, it's the only one that we have. So get rid of that, because the dude's got a camera on his shirt, He'll turn it on. We could trust him. He's a police officer, right? They don't hurt people.
Well, and none of those will get, broken in the ensuing action or anything like that. I'm sure cameras will be lost. Guys will be forgetful, as they tend to be sometimes at critical moments, right? These kind of things are going to happen, right?
They happen all the time now. Why shouldn't they happen then?
Well, exactly. And this is why, but I do crack up regarding the LAPD because, in recent things that have come out, in various places in the information stream, as it were, these are the same people who are going to investigate, Bill Cosby and his, his incidents that have supposedly expired regarding the statute of limitation, simply because they can, which is also an excellent use of taxpayer dollars, by the way, to investigate crimes that you can't prosecute. Isn't that wonderful? They should be the most trustworthy people out there. And after all, if you're going to roll out something regarding, corruption or misconduct by a police force, LAPD is an excellent place to start, isn't it?
It really is.
Ugh.
And the Lowell Police Department in Michigan did a fantastic job of creating this PR stunt, which actually became a viral video on YouTube. And I actually got into a conversation with a gentleman who is not part of the Lowell Police Department, but he was a police officer for 20 years. And he was saying to me, well, isn't this a good thing? I mean, cops are doing good things. This cop pulls people over like he's going to write a ticket, asks them what they want for Christmas. He's hooked up with a audio and a microphone. There's a guy at a store a couple of blocks away. He can hear the responses from the drivers. They go and buy the gifts, have them wrapped, and bring them to the car within 10 or 15 minutes. It's all caught on video. The police chief for the Lowell Police Department actually admitted that this was a PR stunt, that they hooked up with Up TV, a local cable station, hopefully getting it to a national level, which it did. It went on YouTube, and then it went completely crazy, and the mainstream picked it up. This was a completely manufactured stunt, and the Lowell Police Department chief explained that they're doing this because there's so much bad press regarding police officers. There was another gentleman who was called to a scene where a African-American woman had stolen 5 eggs from a dollar store, and instead of taking her in, he bought her a dozen eggs, went back to the police department, had a talk with some guys, and then magically showed up at her residence with a week's worth of food. And again, the police officer who initiated this, he explained in the interview to the local TV station that he was glad that this story went national, because this is good press, because the cops are getting bad press for actually getting caught hurting people, beating people up, murdering people, shooting a 12-year-old child within 2 seconds of arriving on the scene. That's not even enough time to say, put the gun down, but okay. So yeah, they're doing all of these PR stunts. And then on top of all of this, we've got Obama putting out an executive order creating this task force whose specific job is to regain public trust. And who do they have heading this thing? The head of the International Chiefs of Police. So this is an industry thing. Look, I've told you 1,000 times. The police departments are private corporations. They are public benefit LLCs. They are hired to perform policing services. Go look up that definition, because it's not protecting the public, I'll tell you that.
Oh, no.
And these private corporations have been doing so much stuff for so long, but wait, we have technology now. And some people got smart, and they pulled out their smart phone and started recording these people, and then went home and put it on YouTube. And that became a thing. And thank God for places like CopBlock who encourage this kind of behavior. And now, all of a sudden, everything that the cops do, they might be filmed, and they know this. So they're putting out these dudes who are pulling you over for a ticket and gives you a present, and these other people who you get called to a scene, and he goes and buys you a bunch of groceries. This is all public relations. The corporations who are providing policing services have bad marketing and bad press, and now they are trying to rebrand themselves, remarket themselves to you, make you forget about all the toys that George Bush Sr. gave them or paved the way for them to have. Obama is not even stopping the trickle down from the Pentagon to your local police department. He's not even going to restrict anything on it at all, period. He says that it's necessary. So instead, let's work on public relations. And why are they working on public relations? Relations as opposed to, I don't know, fixing the problem? Because public relations works. It's been working for the last 80 years in this country, and that's how we make decisions. We listen to the propaganda, and we fall for it every single time. Let's not do that this time. I saw a lot of Gen Xers out there in New York and in Ferguson and standing up all over the country, standing up and saying this is wrong. We were kind of like the generation, what are we going to do? We're like the lame generation now. We're in our 30s and 40s, and we realize police state sucks, and we need to make it stop. And we should keep getting out there, and we should not take this at face value. When we see these PR stunts, know what it is and take it for what it is, and quit falling for the marketing. Otherwise, our children and our grandchildren are going to have the police state that we have today times whatever it is, times 100, times 1,000. And I'm not even exaggerating. Because if it's this bad now in 37 years, and when I was a little girl, I used to watch The Streets of San Francisco, and that's what cops were. And now they look like Terminator. Except, just wait for that. Microsoft has a security bot. Wait for that to happen.
Absolutely. Stop. You are in violation. We're going, You remember that? Remember that first, RoboCop movie, right? Or the first series of RoboCop movies where they presented this stuff, and really, really quickly we've seemed to have accelerated into that. Now, another thing that you're always covering, and you covered it recently as well, but I'm going to kind of diverge from your article a bit, before we revisit where we started the show. But the whole concept of hacking and how information is being utilized, and the possibility of terrorism in the hacking world, as it were. The recent debates regarding Sony and all these other wonderful things, right? This whole ridiculousness with probably, if North Korea were responsible, they've probably done us a big favor by keeping one Seth Rogen film that was definitely going to be a bomb out of our hands, for a little while anyway, until they get to the specialized DVD of the most dangerous film, right? Isn't this interesting stuff in light of all of the other disasters, the real, actual, true acts of damage that have been done by hackers in recent years? Taking a look at all that stuff, I'm wondering what your viewpoint is on all that.
Well, like I said in that article, there's something called mirroring, and if you're not a hacker, you don't know about this, but you use somebody else's computer, somebody else's IP address, somebody else's server to bounce off of. So when the person who's being hacked goes to look and see where it came from, it looks like it's coming from Wyoming, but you're in Switzerland. Mm-hmm. And that is just 101. So, for them to say that Iran or even North Korea was responsible for the hacking, I'm not clear that they're actually deciphering, because we don't have the technology. When people bounce off of and use mirroring techniques, and there's several other ways to do this, and there's more advanced ways to do it, I don't see any evidence that we have the kind of technology to be able to siphon through all of that. And I've written several articles quoting security experts stating that we just don't have the technology to be able to follow a line that has been corrupted so many times. I mean, you could do the mirroring technique. You could bounce off of theoretically every server before it gets to you. So they've got to sit there for a very long time and figure out where the line is going and how many loops and diversions it has. It's not like Sony gets hacked and a couple of days later we hear about it and we know because we have the IP address that it came from North Korea. They don't know. They can't get that information that quickly. It takes a lot of research. it takes a lot of time. And even if you have an entire department of people who are qualified to do that, it still takes time, and it's not 72 hours. And that's just the reality. This is absolute malarkey to me, that they're even making this claim. And it has a political backing to it as well, because we've been trying to get into another fight with North Korea for a very, very long time. So why not? And the whole Team America, World Police, and that being, taken down. You know what? Freedom isn't free. According to them, it costs $1.05. But we give up our freedoms readily every single day. And when it comes to cybersecurity, none of these corporations have the type of security that they should have. And even those securities are not up to speed with the level of proficiency that hackers, and I'm not saying that hackers are bad. The idea of hacking is just reverse engineering something. There's lots of open source code and lots of open source material that you can teach yourself how to do this yourself. There's a lot of people who work regular jobs and do the hacking thing at night, and they write beautiful code, and they're able to build all sorts of websites, and they don't have any formal training. This is an amazing self-taught piece of ingenuity to me. It's impressive to me. That's what I'm speaking of when I'm talking about hackers. To me, this is just ridiculous. But ICANN being hacked, that's serious. Forget Sony. That's just, some stars getting their stuff exposed. Well, so what? Well, ICANN is where most of the control of our digital world happens. Well, see, that's a serious hack.
And that was my point, is that, again, this is one of these situations where they're making a huge deal out of what? Some intellectual property got, misplaced, basically. Some emails got hacked, all this kind of stuff. But this is being pumped up as if it were a significant attack on something that was vital to the nation. And last I looked, again, Seth Rogen is not somebody who's vital to America. You know what I'm saying?
Well, don't tell him that.
Well, no, of course not. I mean, after all, I'm far below a cockroach regarding these people, but the thing is, despite being, the voice of a generation, as it were. I don't know which generation that would be, but the voice of a generation that he is and everything like that. I mean, the fact is that, it seems to me more likely that Sony had themselves a bomb of a picture on their hands, allowed it to be disseminated as they have always done. I mean, every time you hear these large screaming complaints about something being stolen intellectual property-wise, it's usually something that is not of a great concern of any sort. It's not of any sort of significance, and it's always about the stunt itself. So this starts up this huge conversation regarding our cybersecurity and what kind of damage a North Korea could do to us. And meanwhile, I find it very interesting that, if anybody was going to claim responsibility for it, you would figure that the individuals who are in charge of running the cult of personality behind Kim Jong-un would be very much grateful to accept credit for this. You know what I mean? But in the meantime, like you said, there's actually some serious risks to some things that would actually matter to individuals out there, and they're all over the place. I mean, I've often wondered when they start talking about, the power grid being vulnerable and everything else, I say to myself, why is the power grid even remotely hooked to something as vulnerable as an internet conduit?
They're not hooked up to the internet that we use, and I really get upset when people report about it because they report like it's the internet that you and I are hooked up to. It's not. It's another internet. So if I'm on my internet, I can't get into their internet. It's like it's like when you're driving down the highway and the lane going the opposite way is next to you, but there's a huge divide. You would have to somehow jump your car over all of that, which would be logistically impossible unless you were some really good stunt driver. If you're driving right up next to that wall, doing 60 miles an hour, to get to the other side to invade that traffic going the opposite direction. It's a 1 in a million shot or more, and it almost will never, ever, ever happen. And that's what we're dealing with here. So right. the internet that they use is not the internet that we use. And because that's almost never explained, and never explained in alternative media, by the way,
Right.
people get this misconception that, some kid in his basement can do like what, Matthew Broderick was doing and get in and like that movie Hackers and get in and then just, mess everything up. And that's just not possible.
Well, right, and that's one very serious point that needs to be noted. But the other thing is this, even if we're talking about, a completely parallel universe, all right, let's just, put it in the easiest to understand terms, all right? Like you said, it's on the other side there. Let's just assume for a moment that you have something that, is that vital. Why would you even have it on an accessible network of any kind? You know what I'm saying? Like, regardless of whether it's, the internet that we are allowed to have as, a toy at this point, which is obviously not even as technologically advanced as probably what many other people are utilizing on the darker channels out there, let's just say, right? The thing is, why is it even part of that? You know what I mean? A door. Like, if you don't want anybody to ever get inside of a building, why build a door there? You know what I'm saying? If you don't ever want, the outside world to be able to contaminate a room, don't give it windows. You know what I'm saying? This has been one of those strange kind of things for me all along regarding that. And how they jump from, a stolen movie and some stolen emails to, the possibility that everything in our entire country could be vulnerable to some people that don't even hardly have the technology to even begin to approach, successful hacking jobs on our internet that we use as people, to be able to even go into that other world, let's just say, and I know I'm not using the best terms here, but I mean, I'm just saying to be able to go into that world at all almost seems like a leap of fantasy that's beyond comprehension anyway.
Yes, and the design is maximizing the ignorance of the population that do not understand the inner workings and how things are accomplished. With the advent of the digital age, all of our energy sources are digital, computerized, controlled by algorithms and computers, and so they have to have a conduit of communication. And that is why they set up that separate internet to facilitate that conduit of communication. And as much as I agree with your point, I understand why they have done that, because you do actually need that communication, that digital communication capabilities, in case something actually does happen. Because, guys, sometimes stuff happens, and it's not the Illuminati, and it's not the Freemasons, and it's not the banking industry. It's just sometimes stuff happens, and they need to be able to get a hold of that as quickly as possible and control whatever computer programs are out of control. The ignorance of the population, though, is always magnified when there's any kind of threat involved, and they're talking to your malignant, that reptilian brain part of you that is in fight or flight. That's the same part of your brain that they elicit when they are marketing to you, because they want you to either get out of your chair and go buy that product now, or run away and think about it and buy it in 2 days. Either way, they know they're going to get your money. So they touch both aspects of that response system. And it's the same thing they're doing now. Okay, so we could throw out this idea that there's a threat to our utilities infrastructure because of the Sony hacking, and it's the old quote that Rahm Emanuel made several years ago, that no crisis ever goes to waste. So if they can get a large percentage of the population who are just, and it's not in a bad way, but we just don't know, we're ignorant of how things work, and then throw out something that sounds kind of plausible. This is disinformation, folks. This is how disinformation works. They throw out something that sounds like it could be true, like you're going to get hacked. Then you go, oh my God, I get hacked. These people got hacked. I was on Facebook and I got hacked, and that's a true story, and I'm still getting hacked on Facebook. So why, if I can get hacked on Facebook, why couldn't the utilities companies get, oh my God, the utilities companies could get hacked. And then all of a sudden you start talking to your friends and neighbors about it, and they start talking to their friends and neighbors about it, and it's all of a sudden it's a national issue, and we're calling for the securitization of our utilities corporations, and oh, by the way, that's going to cost you. And I've written in articles about hacking before that these companies don't even purchase the security necessary that is available now, even though it's not what it should be. But they're not even purchasing that. So you think that by making some sort of federal mandate that all of a sudden these corporations are going to do anything? They're not even doing it now. And some of these corporations have gotten hacked several times, and they're like, we'll deal with it when it gets here.
See, and it's just the continuous charade, like you're saying, to make it more relatable to the public. But this is what really saddens and sickens me, is that they couldn't even really just roll out the whole concept of infrastructure being threatened. They actually had to dumb it down enough so that, look, there's a movie where we make fun of a guy. I mean, let's break it down. We make fun of a guy in a movie, so his country is so angry they might do terrible terrorist things to us. I mean, it's really gotten down to that third grade logic now.
Yes, because we're talking about it. See, when Team America World Police came out, nobody in North Korea said anything. Okay? And that whole movie was making fun of that dude, his father. The whole movie. Nobody said a word over there.
Yeah, Kim Jong-il, and I didn't even like that movie, but I did watch it because I had friends that made me watch it. And the thing was, it's like Kim Jong-il is Elmer Fudd. I mean, pretty much.
Yes. And so I don't know what the interview is. I've never even seen the trailer. But I saw Team America World Police several times. I thought it was funny. So I watched it several times.
Okay. Well.
And if I were the head of North Korea, I would have been offended. They really raked him through the coals and just made fun of him in any way, shape, or possible. Release the Pampas! I mean, come on, that's ridiculously funny.
Well, see, that's the
thing.
And
it's a bunch of black cats.
it did get down to it where, it was just so, over the top kind of mocking of somebody who believes that they're, a supreme leader. I mean, it almost reminds me of when we were little kids and they had the spitting image puppets. And they had a spitting image puppet of the Ayatollah Khomeini, if you remember. I don't know if you ever see the spitting image puppets?
Wasn't those the puppets that Phil Collins, Genesis, used in that video?
You got it. Oh,
they are freaky, terrible, give me nightmares. I'm glad they're gone.
But do you remember previous to that where they had, like the Ronald Reagan puppet and, and he's eating jelly beans like a Muppet and all this other stuff? I mean, do you remember that they were actually like a popular sort of staple in semi-hip humor in the 80s?
Yeah, wasn't it like a television show or commercials or...
It was all
something like that.
All of the above, yeah, all of the above at one point, and they first like came out on cable, your old school like HBOs and Showtimes and stuff, had them making appearances in their comedy shows and stuff like that.
Not necessarily the news.
Not necessarily the news. There was a name that was just about to come to mind. Yeah, I used to love that. By the way,
I did too.
The way that they clipped stuff together. I mean, other little kids thought I was nuts to even bother with. And who's that guy? And why do you care about what Ronald Reagan says in a loop that doesn't make sense? And it's like, no, here's the funny part, that's not being looped, that's what he said. They just isolated it to show you, and then they would have a guy ask different questions, what's the most terrible beast you've ever seen? Well, when Nancy gets up in the morning, and it was pretty funny stuff. And but anyway, my point is that, this type of satire has existed for a long time with people that were greater cults of personality type leaders than any of these, these guys in North Korea, that have really laughable resources when it comes to, the true context of what's going on in the world at this point. Their level of sophistication is almost nothing. And yet this is what gets America's interest regarding what may or may not be a hypothetical cyber threat,
Right. I want to remind people of that 14-minute video that suddenly sparked an entire riot and ended up killing J. Christopher Stevens in the Middle East. that was on YouTube for 3 months before and nobody said a word. That is the same thing that's happening right now with the Sony picture, okay? The reason why they're doing it again is because it worked the first time. Let's not let it work this time, and then they'll have to go back to the drawing board and figure out another way to manipulate our minds. And in that moment, we could probably get our stuff together and never get manipulated again and never fall for this. Never.
Well, yeah, because that was the insulting Muhammad cartoon or whatever, right?
Right, they're doing it again. They're doing it with this movie. It's the same thing.
Ugh, good God. But that's the thing that makes me crazy, is that no matter how many times they pulled the same dead rabbit out of the same dusty hat, people are still not watching the left hand while the right hand is yanking the corpse of the rabbit out. I mean, that's what keeps happening here. Wow. Amazing
because we
stuff.
like to be lied to. We have acceptable lies in our culture. We tell the kids that the Tooth Fairy is real and that the Easter Bunny is real and that Santa Claus is real. I'm sorry for any kids listening. And
it's okay.
And we don't accept other lies. But the lies that we accept, we then make it okay to accept other lies. And so when we have a culture that says, okay, it's socially acceptable to lie to people on this level, but if you reach this certain point, it's no good, that doesn't even matter. Because if you have a false sense of security, you're going to push that. Every 7-year-old will do. My son did that all day long today. He pushed the envelope. He's at that age. This is human nature, and just because we do it as children doesn't mean we don't do it as adults. I do it too. I want to see how far I can go. Sometimes it gets me cool things. Sometimes it gets me in trouble.
Yeah, testing boundaries on occasion can be beneficial, but meanwhile, they're not really testing boundaries. They're just repackaging the same old crap, again and again, and people are still buying it. And to even make this guy a player, regarding the possibility of worldwide terror, which I contend is the most overplayed hand in half a century. It's almost as silly as what's going on with the Cuban thing. And this will be the last thing that I'm going to get into that's off topic and off subject with you, because I want to get your take on this. Okay. The whole, Obama's evil because he's now, going back to being friendly and making some sort of accommodations regarding the Castro regime, and how dare he deal with a dictator like this who, folks, when haven't we dealt with oppressive regimes as a nation? When weren't we involved with the Cuban situation? Let's dial it back a little bit. I mean, there was the Batista regime previous to the Castro regime, which, of course, at one point the United States was supporting, okay, which, even after the fall of the Soviet Union, continued to conduct itself the way it did, right? This is all a big, giant shell game, and again, is one of these things that I think he's tacking on for the sake of his legacy as a president. What do you think of all that? This whole thing being raised, and now we're going to have Cuban cigars, but everybody don't make your vacation plans just yet. As if there weren't ways to get Cuban cigars before, really.
Sure, I'm from Miami. There's lots of ways to get Cuban cigars.
See, I knew you'd have that angle, so that's why I set that one up for you. But go ahead. I mean, what else do you think regarding this and the ridiculousness of even making this into an issue? And of course, the Dana Lashes of the world have to spend 2 hours, going after what's important about this, right? And how it's, absolutely ridiculous that we're dealing with a dictator. When haven't we accommodated strong men across the planet, and the Castro regime is about done anyway. I mean, how old is Raul Castro? Remember, Fidel Castro was alive and kicking and in power, at the very same time when Kennedy was assassinated over 50 years ago. Okay, so they're about done. Whatever was done there was done. And previous to the so-called dangerous communist regime coming in, okay, there was the Batista regime, who were perfectly happy to interact and deal with the corporate interests, The United Fruit Company, the sugar companies that were down there was no problem with exploiting the people regarding our corporate interests, and that's continued regardless. Now we're going to re-legitimize these things, and really, it's just a matter of putting it back on paper so that he can say that, instead of Obama going to China, because we already accept their slave goods, and gee, that's not an oppressive regime that stocks your Walmart, is it? But I digress. The thing is, this is a big deal regarding the approach to Cuba. It's, again, another one of these nonsensical things while we're dropping off more troops into the place where we weren't going to put boots on the ground, and more things are going on regarding the financial system. And it just seems to me, again, watch my right hand while I pull the dead rabbit out of the hat. Pay no attention to that left hand behind my back.
Absolutely. I want to remind people that earlier this year in April, the U.S. government was caught setting up a fake Cuban Twitter called Sunzunio, and this was funded by U.S. aid. And the project involved the International Republican Institute, which I've talked about lots of times on this show and various other shows. Please go look them up or read about them on OccupyCorporatism.com. They are the people who go over to those other countries and set up the revolutions that we say are real, and they're not. And boo, we put in one of our guys as a regime change because it works. When the people overthrow the government, it's a lot easier to initiate a regime change, where with Castro and Batista, we had to actually go in there and arm people and start a fight. This is a nonviolent way of getting the people to vie for more tyranny under the control of the U.S. government, because the patsy we have installed now isn't playing ball anymore, kind of like what we did with Saddam Hussein, too. Oh, and Noriega, remember that dude in the 80s? We just went in there and got him.
Well, and everybody else. I mean, after all, he was fomenting revolution in the Central and South American region. I mean, this guy was promoting the idea of communism and terrible things. And wait a minute, Mr. Castro, that's supposed to be our job. We're the ones who are supposed to support the death squads. Well, when the Coke interest comes into play. But all that aside, right? Exactly. When the greater corporate interests want to get involved, it's just fine. But there you go, right?
Well, this guy that was released, Alan Gross, taken hostage in Cuba about 5 years ago, was on the island helping out, allegedly, a small Jewish community, according to CNN's Wolf Blitzer. Wolf Blitzer said that Gross was providing electronic equipment for the small Jewish community, and then he was arrested. He was detained for conducting a covert operation on the island, violating Cuban law. So he was incarcerated for 4 years. And this is the guy that we got back. Yay, we've got Alan Gross back. This gentleman is doing a covert operation inside Cuba using technology and putting together technological ways in which people can facilitate communication. And the Cuban government found out and said, "Nah, dude, we're sending you to prison." And then all of a sudden, this guy who was helping this Jewish community is unfairly put into detainment, which rightfully so. He's in another country, infiltrating, setting up something for the U.S. government. Yeah, he should have been arrested, but he's a hostage. He's being held hostage. So now we have Alan Gross back, and everybody can be happy and feel good about that. Oh, and by the way, now you can have your Cuban cigar. So that's kind of like a little bit of icing on the cake for the average person who doesn't do any digging into the understanding of political interchanges, even when they make headline news. And this made headline news 5 years ago. So since we have that microwave mentality, if we don't have it in 30 seconds or less, we don't want it. And with all of the aspartame, we can't remember why we walked into the next room. Remember why Alan Gross was in Cuba and got in trouble to begin with. And so the release of the, quote, hostage is just, hey, dude, Castro, we want to get our dude back. And if you give us our dude back, then we'll lift the embargo. And Castro's like, yeah, that works. That's awesome. I can do all this infrastructure. Oh, no, wait a minute, Castro. We're going to take over your country. So when we lift the embargo, we'll be able to set up all sorts of things, and all of our corporations will be able to go in there and take over your country. Oh, okay, yeah, sure, yeah, have that guy back. That sounds great.
Oh, it's also amazingly astounding and shocking that there could be the possibility where there's what? espionage going back and forth, and this poor guy was only handing out cell phones, and come on, man, this is business as usual. First of all. Second of all, again, I say it is just for the record, as it were, and I hold the air quotes up. It's not the real record. It's not the real accounting of events. But just for the sake of the legacy of, Lord Cousin Barry there, we'll have to be able to put something of a foreign affairs star on his, little report card. That's what we're going to have to do for the history books. So this is apparently, his visit to China, and on and on and on. And back to China, and what is what is, right? There are a great many other concerns in the world. And like we started talking about earlier with the, with the cannabidiol products and the dishonesty even in what we perceive as a vanguard of sort of newer, but yet it's very ancient understandings of what can be useful and helpful to people, right? You guys actually do have a website set up, and you actually have this product going out now, which is not part of the totally contaminated and co-opted, messy, ridiculous stuff that's being pumped out by a lot of other companies now. And I wanted to get more into that. I just kind of brought you off track because I knew that we would get off into some other areas, and I wanted to make sure that we could get some of that done before we got back to this. But we got about a half hour left, okay? So I want to make sure that we go over that because, first of all, you discovered these problems just by investigating, right, regarding the substandard production of other products that were out there, right?
Yes.
And that I found interesting to begin with. And then when you did, what was the next step for you guys after you got these lab results and found out that that this stuff was not even as advertised? Big surprise there again. The larger corporation that usually lies to us, they lied to us again. But of course, but they were lying about what was actually in the packages and everything else. And that was something that you exposed through your work. But what was the next thing that made you guys decide to do this?
This works. Last winter, I had trouble getting up the stairs. I've told the story several times, and this winter, I have no trouble getting up the stairs. I've watched several documentaries and watched them in the stop and start mode because I'm taking down information and researching it while I'm watching. And the studies that I saw on PubMed, thousands of studies on everything you can think of from stomachache to cancer, and all of them having positive effects. There was one detail in all of these studies that these people in the cannabidiol industry don't tell you. And the reason why they don't tell you this is because they're selling you the hemp paste. All of these studies that have been done all over the world, including the Royal Society, like I mentioned, and on PubMed, which is the National Institutes of Health, including the study that led to the patent of the U.S. government for cannabidiol as a cancer treatment. It says it right there. In 2003, they patented it. Go look it up on Google Patents, and you'll see as a cancer treatment, okay? All of these studies, they're using pure crystalline CBD, not the hemp paste. And when you have pure crystalline CBD, just the CBD, not the hemp paste involved, you have positive effects in everything from stomach aches to cancer. We have several customers. I have one customer who's using it on her 2 dogs. They have both been diagnosed terminally ill with cancer. Both of the dogs are up and jumping around and eating and having a good time. They're taking them out again. She's excited. I have another customer whose 81-year-old mother has terminal cancer. She's finally eating and sitting up and wanting to get up and move around, and she's talking. And he has his mother back. I'm excited because the same constituent that the pharmaceutical industry is using, and they're trying to create a synthetic version of it. I have that same version in natural form. And with all of these people selling you snake oil products and products that are substandard, if the pharmaceutical industry has access to pure crystal CBD. And they're saying that it has positive effects on neurological disorders, arthritis, digestive problems, cancers of all kinds, and everything in between. Then why can't you have access to that product? Right. So my husband and I went out and found it. It's 99.999% pure. That's the base constituent that we use. The Crystal Pure CBD comes from the laboratory tested 99.999% pure. And then with the organic hemp oil is tested out just 2 days ago at 99.8%. You will not find numbers like that anywhere. And we have all of the laboratory tests up on crystalpurecbd.com. You can look at it yourself. If you have any questions, you can email us at posel@msn.com, posel@msn.com. We have access to Novus Medical Group. They saw our product and wanted us to be part of their operation because they are a national conglomerate of medical marijuana doctors and cannabidiol health professionals and doctors who use this, who have read the studies, who have the medical training to understand what they're talking about. And so if you have any questions, go to Novus Medical Group, Google them, and through them you can buy our product wholesale. We also have a special going on now with this broadcast. If you go to Crystal Pure CBD and you buy one of our bottles, use the coupon code TOE10, TOE10, okay? If you use that coupon code, you will get free shipping on up to 5 bottles that you order. So every bottle that you order up to 5, you will get free shipping, and you have the possibility of getting holiday packaging or gift packaging free of charge if you would like. But use that code TOE10, TOE10, and you will get free shipping on bottles up to 5 bottles. And we want to make sure that, and if that's not enough of a discount for you, go to Novus Medical Group, and we will sell it to you wholesale. This product, it works. It works for the government. It works for the pharmaceutical industry. And we've spoken to people who are on or mixing up their own Rick Simpson oil. And we've spoken to people who are putting together the Charlotte's Web version, the high CBD content medical marijuana. And they are thrilled that we have this product because you can add as much THC to it as you want. You just take a couple of drops of the Crystal Pure CBD, a couple of drops of liquid THC, and you can use that to your discretion. But if you want actual Crystal Pure CBD without the hemp paste, without the toxic solvents, and you want the same kind of grade that the pharmaceutical industry is using, then you have to buy Crystal Pure CBD. And it works on animals as well as humans. And I'm ecstatic that it does, because most of the tests are done on animals, and they have the positive effects with cats and dogs and rabbits and mice and rats. So when they do the human trials, they find the same exact response. And I know that several of my customers, we're in contact with them, we email, we talk on the phone. This means something to me. I want you to have this because it works. And I don't want you to continue using the paste because people are going to the hospital because they're taking hemp meds and PX. Project CBD put out a 30-page report that I wrote an article about and actually spoke to them to get further information. People went to the hospital. People went not just for a visit to the ER, but actually stays in the hospital because they were ingesting the hemp paste. And with the hemp paste, you don't get as much control over the THC content. And for a lot of people mixing up Rick Simpson oil, that becomes an issue because high THC content, maybe grandma or your mother is 80 years old and doesn't want to be high. Maybe your daughter who has seizures doesn't need to be high. She just needs the cannabidiol. Right. And this way you can have the cannabidiol, add as much THC as you want to it. And this is the product. This is the revolution.
Can you just spell out the link for me one more time, though? Because I missed it a little bit, and I don't think I got it right, so I wanted to spell it out one more time.
CrystalPureCBD.com. CrystalPurecBD.com. You can just put in Crystal Pure or Crystal CBD. You'll find us. We're the only one. And trust me, our customers are extremely ecstatic, and they're sharing with their family and friends about this product. And some of the people in the industry are starting to scratch their heads at us because they realize that they can't compete with this. And I want to revolutionize the industry. I want those salesmen, those snake oil salesmen, to not be in business anymore because we don't need products on the market that don't work. We have enough of them. We need pure CBD because it really does work in its pure form. It really does do everything that these studies claim it does.
Right. So, and just one more time, because if you want to get, and this is just for people listening to this show, the coupon code that you can use to get the free shipping is TOE10, which is TOE10. Okay, that's just for those of you who are listening to me right now, or catch me later on downstream. It's fine, right? I mean, how long will they be able to use that code?
The free shipping will be good all the way through January 1st. Okay. If you want to, after that, get a cheaper price, go to Novus Medical Group, join their group, and we will sell to you at wholesale. And so you will save about $80 or $90 on every bottle that you purchase.
Right. And, okay, now, just to let everybody know, we're down to the last 20 minutes or so, and I'm willing to take calls now if you guys want to come on in and ask any questions about any of the stuff we've covered. But of course, we are talking at this point about the sort of nonsense that's gone on regarding a lot of these people trying to sell you these subpar products and all this stuff regarding CBDs. And like I've said many, many times, I'm completely in support of use of the hemp or the marijuana or whatever works that is going to be natural. Anything that gets us away from having to depend on the greater sort of, petroleum-based nonsense and garbage that's out there for the many, many ailments. I mean, the hemp oil that we're the hemp product that we're discussing here is one of the safest and most natural and most acceptable things to the system that you can possibly imagine. So
there are no side effects. There are no adverse effects ever recorded.
Right.
When taking pure CBD. 0 adverse effects, 0 side effects. Now, taking the hemp paste, there have been recorded side effects, and some of them have put people into the hospital. So that concerns me greatly. And like I said, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. There had to be a real... When I write my articles, I take that seriously. This is journalism. This is evidence, fact-based journalism. That's what journalism was intended to be. And if I'm the only one doing it, then I'm going to be the only one doing it. And I take that same idea and concept into Crystal Pure CBD. We have the facts up on the website. You don't have to question. We have the current laboratory tests up on the website, and you can contact the lab if you want to and ask them, and they will talk to you and tell you. And we also work with Novus Medical Group because there are groups out there who are working toward making sure that medical marijuana and CBD is accessible. Our cannabidiol is FDA compliant, and we are working on becoming FDA approved. And it is legal in all 50 states because it's a food ingredient. It's not, you don't need to have a card or live in a state where medical marijuana is legal, or if you live in a state where it's illegal, it doesn't matter. This is legal in all 50 states because it's not the marijuana, it's not the hemp that you're purchasing. You're purchasing pure crystal CBD that was taken from the budding flowers. No plant material is used at all. And like I said, it's important to us to not only bring a pure product, but make sure that it's safe. And I don't always agree with the FDA, but I want this to be as safe as possible. And so we are working toward becoming FDA approved. But at the moment now we are FDA compliant, and that means something to me.
Right. Do you mind if I add in Vince Easley, who's been waiting patiently to get in on the conversation?
I love Vince.
He's also the guy who's been substituting for the lady whose name is Cynthia. Cynthia, who does the Cancer Kicker show earlier in the day on UCY here, and definitely a guy that I've been interacting with ever since I came over here. So, I wanted to add him into the conversation, if you don't mind, because I think he has a question for you or something.
I love Vince. He's one of my dearest friends.
So let's just see what we can do. I think just about got him. We'll see in just a moment. But there we go, Vince. So you're on the air with Suzanne Posel and me, so fire away, brother.
Hey, glad to be here, Chuck. Suzanne, how are you doing? I love all you do.
I love you too. You're such a great supporter, and I am so grateful to you.
Oh, I'm proud to be. We'll work for likes. That's what I told Chuck earlier. Yeah, I really, really enjoy both of y'all's work, and I'm laughing because this is the question always from chat, so Chuck knows what it is. Dancing Israelis and Khazars. Okay, so to show everybody in chat, Suzanne, that you are one of us, give us your opinion, please, on 9/11.
My opinion on 9/11?
Yeah, and the Dancing Israelis, you've heard of them. I'm sure that they were filming the World Trade Center's collapse.
Yes.
Sorry, Chuck, I had to do it.
9/11 is extremely complicated, and I think it's complicated for a very good reason. It's for the same reason that the JFK assassination is complicated. There's a lot of information out there that is true. There's a lot of information that sounds plausible and it has truthiness. And there's a lot of information that's absolutely bunk, but you know what? People will believe anything. And the unfortunate part about it is all of that has been lumped together as the discussion of 9/11. And I would like to see someone, I wish I had the time, and I'm not putting this on any of y'all, but I would like to see someone write a definitive book not engaged in the conversation, but some third party who doesn't have a stake in the matter, who isn't trying to sell you something, actually do a comprehensive, objective look at 9/11 so we can put to rest the absolute malarkey, the plausible truthiness, and get to the actual fact so we can really make a firm decision with facts and evidence of what actually happened, who is actually responsible, why they actually did it, and what their threat level is.
Okay, let me just say, hey, you know how we are over here. You see why our chatters are pretty demanding. But you know what? My opinion is nothing can ever be proven. All the evidence has been destroyed. All we have is conjecture. I think most of us would probably agree that there's definitely a conspiracy, but it's beyond anything we can do about it now. The conspiracy is so deep that everything's buried. So we keep kicking this old horse. And Chuck, you knew I was going to ask that, but I hope you're not being mad at me.
It's no matter what I do. If I did a show on relationships and we were talking about, women are from Venus and men are from Mars, if I was doing that show tonight, somebody would call up and say, okay, we heard what you had to say about men and women, but what about the dancing Israelis? The dancing Israelis. This has been a continuous thing, Suzanne, on my show, which just does not cease for one reason or another. So there you go. I like the use of the word truthiness, though. That was wonderful, Suzanne. Really appreciate that. I love that.
I think that we are so starved for answers that sometimes, and I'm not saying that it applies to this dancing Israeli situation, but sometimes we are willing to accept anything because it lays to rest that stress. Because why would 3,000 people die for going to work on time? And the people who died in the plane crash and the people who died at the Pentagon, why would all of these people die? And then the millions of Iraqis, innocent Iraqi citizens who died. Why would all of these people die? This doesn't make any sense. This is such a horrific event. We need to make sense of it. And sometimes to suspend all logic and reasoning, we will accept something that is absolutely fantastical because it gives us that sense of peace that we finally know the truth, even if nobody else does. And that need to have that satiation, I think, sometimes overshadows what we can actually prove and what the real dots that are literally connected to people, places, and events and things.
Well, right, and a lot of people don't consider the greater possibility that there are purposely laid what I call golden apples regarding all of these complex situations where there is tons of misdirection, not only among the mainstream, but among those who think that they are awake. They have been tricked, a lot of them, and I'll leave it at that. But,
Thanks,
man,
Chuck
oh man.
and Suzanne. Hey, listen, I wanted to tell you the other link was not opening up, and I did manage to find a good link. It's beyondcbd.com. The Crystal Pure CBD link will not open, nor will the other one. No, it did open. The other one did. Y'all did post.
Okay, yeah, you can purchase it at beyondcbd.com as well. Same exact thing. You can enter in the promotional code TOE10, and that way you will get the free shipping up to January 1st, up to 5 bottles. And like I said, if you want a bigger discount, Novus Medical Group, and I've spoken personally with the director and the CEO and some of the other people, the other staff there, and they are wonderful. This is a mom-and-pop shop who decided that medical marijuana and CBD needed to be accessible to everyone, and there needed to be a network of doctors and nurses and health professionals who use this and are skilled to be able to converse with each other and get to more patients. So this is a great system. It's national, like I said, and we'll sell it to you at wholesale when you join their group. So it's definitely worth it, because there's a lot of people who don't understand. They get the CBD and they don't understand things like you need to be hydrated. When you take our Crystal Pure CBD, make sure that you're hydrated. Make sure that you get a healthy dose of vitamin C every single day. This will help the cannabidiol work in your system better. But there's lots of other medical advice that I'm not qualified to give you, and Novus Medical would be able to give that to you. So in towing in line with the idea that this is a product that we need to have access to, I wanted to make sure that people had direct access to medical professionals, which is something that no other corporation is offering, because they don't care about you. They care about getting your money. But I want you to get better. You know, I've spoken with my customers on the phone, and the customer with the 2 dogs, we cried on the phone 2 days ago because I was so ecstatic that her dogs were okay. These dogs mean something to her. They're like her children, and they've been with her for so many years, and she doesn't want to see them go. And so she thinks that it was some vaccines that caused it, because right after they were vaccinated, they became sick and had tumors. So the cannabidiol working for her, the Crystal Pure CBD, that makes me elated. I'm starting to tear up right now, because I understand. I've had pets before, and I have children, and not that pets are children and children are pets, but when you have someone else in your life that you love and take care of and care for, you attach yourself so deeply to that individual or that animal that it's hard to let them go. And this is something that is working for the dogs. It's working for all of our other customers, and I want you to have this at whatever price point that you can pay. So if you want to take $80 or $90 off the price, go and buy it wholesale from Novus Medical. Our price on Crystal Pure CBD is $200, and it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it.
Right, and again, the product code. I mean, any which way you want to save money, TOE, which stands for the Ochelli effect, TOE and 10, the numbers 1 and 0. That's what works there. So look, we are running low on time. I'm down to probably about the last 7 minutes here, and sorry if we didn't get to everything that you might have had on your mind tonight, Suzanne. But you know me, I kind of always go all over the place, and that's the way it is, But I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to make sure you got out in these last few minutes. But go right ahead.
I'm happy whenever you invite me on the show. I get excited. I was all excited today. I'm going to talk to Chuck. I was happy.
Well, I wish there was more of you that were excited to talk to me and not just simply ask me about the dancing Israelis. But
there is the Hyperloop. And this is something that has been in the works. It's not even built yet. It's in its infancy and architectural stage.
Oh, I completely skipped over that. Yeah, that's at the top of the breaking news page there at occupycorporatism.com. So, yeah,
Elon Musk,
go ahead.
who is CEO of Tesla Motors and SpaceX. If you're interested in going to Mars, they are the people who are working with the Mars One, who are going to send 24 people to Mars by 2024. So I don't know if they're still taking applications, but yes, they were taking applications for everyday people to take this trip. So Elon Musk is putting together Hyperloop Transport Technologies, which is another subsidiary for him. And this is a high-speed transit train that will get you from California to New York in 30 minutes and cost you about $20 or $30. That sounds awesome to me. And there's actually a map of the Hyperloop destinations in the article. And it's really neat because it's all over the country. And I think that would be great. But then I start to think about Agenda 21 and how they don't want us to be able to move from region to region like we move from state to state now in our car. This would just be so awesome for them if they could stick us on a hyperloop and send us over from one mega region to another, where in the other mega region we work and we live, where we originate our trip from. And that kind of kills it for me. But that's the kind of love-hate relationship I have with technology, because I'm a science buff and I love science. And I really am excited that I live in this time, that I'm alive now, because we're in the infancy of the digital revolution and there's so many cool things. But the people who are running these corporations and bringing this technology to us are such evil, nasty, crooked, shady people that it just poo-poos all over this wonderful technology that we could have to make our lives better, because they're such yucky people.
Well, yeah, that's one way to put it. I know you were trying to control your language, and that's I understand, but yeah, there's always like these evil other agendas, and everything is a double-edged sword regarding technology. I mean, we've gone over that ad nauseum on the air, you and I, about how this is really great, but at the same time it's done this, and this is really great, but at the same time it's done that. This is always the constant regarding this stuff, right?
It is. And like 23andMe, they are funded by Google Ventures, and the CEO is the estranged wife of the head of Google. Go figure. What is 23andMe? That's how you can break down your DNA and pick and choose what characteristics you like and dislike about yourself and your partner, and then create the perfect child.
Oh, and the designer babies, yeah, the designer babies. This came up during that same conversation regarding how you could add a third person into the DNA soup there, as it were, right?
Right. And now they've done this genealogy of all of the people in the United States, and I don't think that they got all of our DNA. I hope they. I didn't give away my DNA,
but they might have. They may have, gotten it some other way. I mean, I'm not going to claim to understand that whole system, because there's limitless possibilities to data mining, as it were, in the biological sense, right?
Exactly. Ugh. But they created this genealogy, and so basically what they're saying is we're just a big soup. We're just an amalgamation of all these things, and so to say that anything is one thing is ridiculous. And that. I don't mind that statement as much as I mind, how did they get all this DNA? Because they're using like a swab inside your mouth. Where did they get all these swabs? And how many people volunteered for this, as opposed to where did they get the rest of the swabs? Because they're claiming this of the entire nation. And I'm a second-generation American, so I don't know if my family even was part of this.
Yeah, but you and me both, and that's a weird thing, but I guess it's a possibility if you took a snapshot earlier on, and let's just say, and here was one of the weirdest concepts I heard brought up about this, is that maybe the database had been collected over the years from dentistry.
Or jails. When you go into a jail, they swab you and stick you with stuff and check every orifice. And sure, where does that biological data go to?
There you go.
You're assuming that they throw it away in a biohazard bag and it goes out in the dump. Maybe it doesn't.
and speculating here completely, but the possibility exists that this might be the greater reason for why the prison industrial complex has been allowed to flourish as it has. But and of course dentistry as well,
or the military,
or if you combine just those three things,
stuff, they don't ask questions, and you don't get to keep your swab with you, take it with you after they take the you don't know where this stuff is going.
Yeah. Yeah, and the possibilities are endless.
See, but then it makes us scared of Q-tips.
Well, you know,
take extremes, people would become scared of Q-tips. And I'm not trying to instill a scare of Q-tips. We all need to keep our ears clean. But
listen, in the next generation, though, we may actually have the boogeyman holding the Q-tip. That is a possibility. So, look, I'm just about out of time, Suzanne. I want to thank you for joining me. Tonight, as usual, we go into odd directions. The terror of Q-tips, and Obama's agenda and legacy all aside. I mean, it's definitely been an interesting trip for the evening, as it were, and I want to thank you again for coming on, and we will do this again next month, because it's just about once a month that I have you on to do this. If you're happy with doing it, I'll be more than happy to revisit all of this, and God knows what'll be going on by the beginning of 2015. But listen, I want to wish you a happy holidays and very safe one to you and your family, and of course again, just say thanks, and thanks for all the great work you do at OccupyCorporatism.com, of course the U.S. Independent, and one more time. If the website was having a little trouble being reached by some other people, I don't know, but if you want to give out the website one more time for the CBD.
Yes, you can go to beyondcbd.com. That is our retail store, and you can purchase Crystal Pure CBD. Use the promotional code TOE10, TOE10.
The bumper just kicked in. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Stay tuned for Jaded, which is not under my control, and I guess you can answer that dancing Israeli question one more time, but it'll be Kim answering it. Goodbye.
But I have the files. I read this stuff at the National Archives, and I read these other things. I said to myself, how can that be possible? The brain, crystals and the final slab of choice. I don't know what it doesn't really matter. Internet, professional wrestlers, and not Jesse Ventura style. It doesn't matter where the information comes from as long as it's real. It's hard to get real information because seriously, they don't want you to have just read two sources.